So here I am with my repainted front. It is on and ready to go. We are working on the bricking. We have to cut bricks, so we've got out the radial arm saw with the masonry blade in it. And I've been laying out ahead of time the placement of the bricks so that we will know what goes where. And I actually was on my booklet. You'll need lots of pencils for this. These masonry blocks wear these pencils down really fast. So I was able to find a couple of fat ones, but the red crayon type pencil, oh, it's by Crayola, it worked really good for doing that. So this is what I've gotten from Leader, and this came with my arch. This is my actual pan assembled. They lay it all out in their shop, and then they take it apart to send it to the dealer. So that's really neat, so that you have, you know, a better understanding of what's going on. But mine is an American evaporator, and it explains in here the setup of it that I hadn't gotten. And a neat little trick they suggested is to take these blocks and put them upright instead of turned like this, because I was going to have to cut off. Let's see if I got one of them marked. So this is the cut line. If this was up on end like this, I was going to have to cut that whole section off, wearing the blade out faster. So putting them up on end, they're almost the right height, so there'll be less cutting surface on the block. So cutting two of them would be about the equivalent of cutting one of these. So I'm excited about that, to be able to get going on this. And of course, these are about the last blocks that go in. And as we cut the bricks, you set them in place. After it's all dry fitted, you take apart one side, cement them in, take apart the other side, and cement them in. So we are in the shop working on where we are more comfortable to be able to get it all dry fitted. So we're going to get to work on this. I'll show you some snippets of us working along. Please enjoy. So I just wanted to show you guys, we're doing safety, which is something we always do, but we picked up a second heavy duty mask. His is by 3M. Oh, so is mine. Mine is very old, from back in my days of doing drywall. So we're set up, and he has cut a couple of blocks so far. Cut the big full block, which is double thickness. These are considered splits, so they're not as fat. And he cut this block here, cut a notch out of it for the bolt that holds the door together. And this creates a lot of dust with this masonry blade. So working outside and good ventilation is important. I'm going to shut the rest of the shop up so the dust doesn't just blow back in there. I don't think it would be a bad idea to have glasses. Great. Yep. Sit up there, insulate that door the best we can. So I want to have my door bricked as much as possible because I've actually seen some used maple syrup arches for sale that had, and even just on websites when I was looking for information about the ash pit, cracked cast iron fronts. So this block right here and the sister block to it that sits on this side need to be removable. Those two won't be cemented in place. For cleaning out the ash pit, you can remove the grate, but not if these are cemented in, but they will still give you heat resistance benefits. So far he's gotten this block and the one over on this side cut. The center block and the saw is just doing great. Do you remember about what we paid for that saw blade? Okay, he says maybe $10.
Maybe.
And we were looking, you can rent a tile saw, which I would assume would do the blocks. Yeah, Menards, it was $37 for 4 hours. And I think it was $1 or $2 extra per hour after that. And the thing to note about those rental places is you can rent them later on in the day, and if your 4 hours is up after their closing time, you get to keep it until their opening time in the morning. So if you need more time, you just go ahead and rent it late in the day. So see, he's got that cut flush to the top so that they don't get tipped over when you're firing the evaporator. If they were sticking up, then the wood would tip them over. Look at that nice cut that it makes. We're not using any water. And some people told me that you can wet your bricks to reduce dust and that it might help the bricks to cut easier. But it's cold outside. It's below freezing. And if we were working with water and wet bricks, we'd be freezing. And it's already been just a miserable cold weekend. So he was just telling me, folks, that he doesn't like how he had got this originally cut. His cut edge is facing up. He said if eventually these could have to get replaced because they can crack and you have to re-brick blocks at a certain point. We actually have just enough bricks to do the whole job, so we're going to leave it this way. But he thinks it would be better to have that finished edge from the factory. It's more polished, facing up. And maybe put that facing down, but he had already notched them out for the brackets for the door.
This one anyway.
Just to make it look nicer, you know.
That might be better.
It's still getting heat from the underside, but it would have less heat exposed to it if it was facing down. So see, he's scribing his notch with my little saw blade. And then he takes it out to the saw and he just takes a little bite out of it, a little at a time. Yeah. Isn't that slick?
Pretty good?
Yep.
I see. So this is 2?
Uh-huh.
Use this one next?
Sure. If you're not using my line, it doesn't matter. I had it all laid out in pre-marked.
This one seems to be
But
a good line.
if the insulation has stuff up underneath it and then it doesn't set right, then your block is different.
Yeah, that's different.
Look at this. See how detailed he did there? He had decided save a brick and split it directly in half instead of on the actual thickness. And we'll just add a little mortar to that piece to make up for that little 1/8 of an inch. And these are the blocks that don't get cemented in. He made a little spacer there in the corner so that that can be better insulated, and we can choose to mortar that piece or not, because when these get hot, they're going to expand, the metal grates. So I think we might not want to cement that one in. Oh, look at that. Just great. So I'll tell you, unless you've done this before, there's no way renting the saw for 4 hours is going to work. You're going to need it for 24 hours. He's been at this for a while with a little break to feed animals and take care of things. And he's getting at the front part right now. Let me show you the progress we've made. So if you're familiar with woodworking, they say measure twice, cut once. They want you to be frugal with these blocks, and they don't give you extras for screwing up. So you want to make sure that you're doing it right. See those pencil marks? We keep marking them differently. I had them laid out and marked for them, and then we decided to go a little differently around the front to get as much surface coverage on that door as possible. Because when they brick it, like in my video that I put up a couple videos ago about bricking the arch, the dealers brick it differently, and there was a lot of open space on it. So we're just trying to cover up as much as we can to not have any heat damage, heat loss, or end up with a cracked front. But check this out. He's doing real good. Real good. And on the sidewalls, they say to offset so that your seams aren't all lined up. This is called the belly of the arch, and these do not have to be offset because they're just laying flat. So I've kind of got it laid out for him. This is not going to take a full 5 bricks across, so he's going to have to cut all of this stack of bricks slightly narrower to fit in there. Now he'll cut that corner off, and it'll fit on that slope there, and then he goes backwards towards the front part of the arch. So if renting it means saving your equipment, it might be worth the renting the wet saw. Let's go see how that went in. Ooh. Oh. Almost. just a hair off for the next row. It's real nice when you don't have to cut them, huh? Well, look at that. That looks like it's a hair more than a brick. Ooh, it's a hair less. Are you hairless? You know we're not hairless. We're not running around wearing hats all the time trying to cover up that we don't have hair. So let's talk about this hole right here for a minute. This is that American evaporator. So it's got a drain hole for your flue pan so that when you are done at the end of a boil, you can drain it off. So to run an evaporator, you have to have liquid in your sap pan so that you're not heating an empty pan. And you can put in straight water. When you're cleaning a pan, you clean it all out. You can use baking soda apparently. They have pan cleaners and stuff for your syrup pan, not to use it in your flue pan, I think it said. Might be the other way around. I'll have to double check that. So, another great cut. Good job. So the flue pan actually has drains at the end of the flues, and ours is a drop flue, for emptying out that pan in between use. So when it's all kind of going together, I'll show you more of that. Now, I can't say that we're doing things better than the experts, but we're not using up a lot of little bits of scrap. I want as big a piece of the firebrick as possible in this area. So we're using up some scraps just to avoid having to cut some of the bricks. They're just slightly too big right here, and you have to have room for the refractory cement or mortar in between. So he's going to cut some of these. We've got 6 partials here to use up from cutting these sections here. But he's going to cut this one like that. We had decided, now on the Sugar Bush Supplies website, they had these laid out sideways like this all the way to the front to this row. But then we had like a 1.5 inch section here that we didn't want a skinny block, so it was better to go bigger. Right? Go big or go home. So to get the most coverage this way, we decided to put them the long ways, and this is really helping us out with this drain hole. This drain hole needs to be cut, and we don't have like a concrete hole saw to be able to go through this. So what he's able to do, see here, that is the drain hole like I said. He'll just be able to cut out a little square here, which the actual threaded pipe that goes through there, this is the threaded pipe that's going to go through there, and that's half of the size of the hole that they give you. And I don't want a whole lot of heat loss, so I'm just going to have them cut a smaller square to be able to go in there. And then you can use your ceramic insulation, it's fireproof, around the pipe to not lose heat through this opening. It's the same as like what you have here on your top rail. They call it your rail gasket. So this material here is totally fireproof, and I don't quite remember what this piece is for. Maybe it's for the door. I'm gonna have to look through that. I didn't see anything about it. And then this is our rail gasket too. It's the same material. They give you a whole roll of it to build it, but in the instruction manual it actually says like 1/2 inch on one pan and 1 inch on another. So I don't know why they just give you a whole roll of the same size, because apparently it doesn't matter. I guess that's why. But look how he did this. He's going to make it so that it's got like a little T-shape that'll go down in the front, I think he said. The door is going to be super insulated beyond what we had saw in the original. You just going right along. Now, the difficult part about all this next is I have to do the refractory cement, which is like mortar, high temperature. I think it says up to 2,000 degrees. I have to put these back in the exact same order they were put in because he had to cut that top row, and there's differences from every one of them so that they line up right so that it's not totally out of balance. Now, the pans are sitting on this section here, not on the brick. That's not the concern. And there's the rail gasket that's going to go over the top. It's like these pieces here that he cut, these pieces here he cut and notched, this one and this one. So I went ahead and numbered them all the way across, up to 10. This is as much for me as it is for you. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that way. And then I was like, oh, hey, I can just back number here too. I did A for this cut block, B for this cut block. Left and right for the door pieces. And I did the exact same thing on this side. 1 through 5, 1 through 5. A and B. Now you don't have to stagger your belly here, but we had to do one cut brick to make up for this because it's not exactly 5 across. So we did our short brick here and our short brick here, and then down the arch. This is our short brick. Actually, I did that wrong. This is a short brick, and this is a short brick. That one's a short brick, and this one is the short brick. He didn't want it in the center, I remember. This is why it's great to video it, picture it as you go, so that you know. I just took a little snapshot picture at the same time so that I have it all figured out. Now here I did left 1 and left 2. These were whole bricks, but he still had to cut the top a bit. Middle, right 1, right 2. Mouth hole for the drain. I numbered all our splits all the way to the front so that I would remember. So I'm going to get on to mixing up my mortar. I can get this done up. I think I've got about an hour left of daylight, and the shop lighting in here is bad. That is all I've got for this end. I can find an extension cord so I can get on. Okay, I'm in the final part. I am ready to do the refractory cement on my whole maple syrup arch. It's been a long time getting here. I was ready to do this weekend. The weather turned bad. We wanted to brick it outside and have it where we were going to do our first cook and then move it later. It's been raining for days. It keeps snowing. It's getting too cold. He doesn't want me to get sick and stand out in the rain. I didn't want to go buy a tent canopy to put up over it just to get it bricked. So I'm finishing it in the shop. So when I bought my arch, they included a tub of refractory cement, and this is, it says Heat Stop 2 Refractory Cement. This is a dry mix. You mix it with water. I called Sugarbush Supplies today to ask them all the final questions I needed. the instructions that came with the arch. This says wood. This is from Leader Evaporator. This is my instructions and my care and use for my evaporator. I really questioned and was concerned with putting the refractory cement against any of the stainless steel or cast iron pieces. So I waited till I could call Sugar Bush Supplies. Couldn't do it on Saturday, they had already left. Couldn't do it on Sunday, they're out, even during the busy maple syrup season. They're out making maple syrup too. So, we're starting right in. I'm making sure that I don't have any bits of the insulation in the stainless steel areas. We are not doing the refractory cement against the stainless steel, the rails, or the cast iron. I've got this mixed up. They told me to do it about the consistency of cake frosting. All you're doing is you're dipping this in. I've got this mixed up into a Rubbermaid container that is throwaway. And you can use the old cake pan, whatever. We're going to dip each side of this that goes against another block. I have to double check which direction that was going to go. So it's not going to be thick like mortar. It's going to be thin set, basically used like a glue. So I think I've got it figured where he wanted it. I think you got a little more space there than I wanted. So I only, starting at the bottom with my full brick, have to dip my first one. So we're going to dip one end of it. Don't want a lot of excess. You don't want a lot of excess, they said. It's not going to be thick like a mortar. Also, you don't want to put it on so thick that you run out. So I picked up some vinyl gloves, rubber gloves, whatever you can do. This refractory cement and the blocks will dry out your skin terribly. After cutting the blocks the one day, the ends of my fingers were split right open. I had to soak my hands in Vaseline overnight to get them better. Nothing worse than having rough, cracked, and bleeding hands from doing this kind of work, I'll tell you. It's good to keep a couple of rags handy for doing the work. I don't want to get this refractory cement on the stainless steel. So before my 1-year-old got here, I had these all laid out in the rows. This is the back part of the arch, in each individual row going up the sides of the arch. He came in here and started knocking them down and just putting them in disarray for me. So here's my first block in. Now I'm going to set down the parts that go here up the belly of the arch and then all the way up the belly to the back. You want to wipe off any excess that you can so it's nice and smooth. So I forgot to ask the guys at Sugar Bush Supplies if it's meeting a brick, do I only brick the one brick? And I thought they're so porous, I might as well brick both sides, any connecting surface. So I'm going ahead and coating my sides to make sure that they're nice and cemented together. don't do this without the gloves.